Good morning and welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone's having a great start to their weekend. Wanted to just do a few updates. I have some mail I wanted to be able to share with you and talk about where I'm at with completing several of the sets that I've been working on, as well as some goals I have over the next couple weeks. But first of all, I wanted to say to those of you in Strongville this weekend, have a great time. I won't be there with you. But I'll definitely be there with you in spirit by watching a lot of your content and posts about things you're able to pick up. Please take a lot of pictures and share a lot of that stuff as much as you can on your channels, because for those of us who have never been to that show, we've heard a lot about it, and I would love to learn more about your experiences, and potentially if it's something that is really cool, it might intrigue me in the future. So I wanted to start actually not with my hobby update, but with my team update. As you know, my team channel is very self-transparent, and I'm a White Sox fan, been there ever since I was a kid. I think I became a White Sox fan shortly after we moved up to the Chicagoland area, and I started falling in love with baseball right around that time, and we went going to White Sox games, so that's kind of my background. I've told that story before, but I wanted to go on as much of a rant as I'm going to go on my channel about it. I know I've talked about it with some other friends, and I think I've mentioned it in some live streams, but this is the worst team I have ever seen on the south side of Chicago. In fact, I think they will challenge and may surpass the worst record all time in baseball, which would be, I believe, the 62 Mets. This team is poorly constructed to be able to score. As much as I do root for these guys, the pitching's better, the defense is better, so maybe that'll give them an opportunity to stay in games and win some close games over the course of the year, which might get them over that 40-win threshold. I believe that is the record, if I'm not mistaken. But I've told my friends that realistically, I want them to win one game a week. I know that sounds like I am not being optimistic, but I think that's realistic for this team. If they can squeak out one win a week, I think that is not bad. And it's just a real shame, just how bad the franchise has gotten over since they won the World Series in 2005. Their ability to be able to develop players has been really poor. The players that they kind of did have some success with, they brought over from Cuba. That would be like Abreu and Robert when he's healthy. But for the most part, a lot of the players that within their organization, they didn't develop well. And one of their players that did come to the organization is doing the best, is not with them anymore. And was moved on very early on because we had Tim Anderson to play shortstop at that point. So I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I really think it's time for Reinsdorf to move on. Granted, it's his team. He can do what he wants with it, but it just really feels like he's not motivated to play to win in this era of baseball. I know finances are always a factor, and we don't bring in the revenue that the Chicago Cubs will, and we never will. And that should never really be, I think, an aim for this team. But we still are in a big market. We still have the ability to be able to draw when the team is playing well and is winning. So there is money to be made when the White Sox are actually putting a good product on the field that's being competitive, that's trying to be able to win the division and hopefully the American League. We have not seen that now for several years, with the exception of the pandemic and the year shortly thereafter, they were able to put together winning teams that made the playoffs. But outside of those 2 years, which really just feel like a blip on the big picture of things, they're just not in the picture in the American League for a team that's going to compete. And they haven't been for some time. And I don't see anything on the field right now that tells me that they're going to be able to be competitive in the course of the next couple of years. And for that, I really look at the ownership and the leadership within the organization. For as great of a job Kenny Williams did being able to bring us a championship to Chicago, he outlived his time, which is really kind of a symptom of the Reinsdorf ownership model, because the similar thing is happening with the Chicago Bulls since Jordan left. with a few exceptions, we had some good seasons there. And yes, we couldn't have planned for Derrick Rose to have gotten injured and, you know, kind of set us back really another 10 years. But he's slow to make changes. I do appreciate his loyalty to his players and his loyalty to the people in his organization. He's probably a wonderful person to work for because you feel very secure in your job. This is a competitive sport. The idea is to be able to compete and win, and sometimes you got to break some eggs to make an omelet, and he seems to be very reluctant to do it, even though he did make a move this past last season when he let go of Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, but it came probably a few years too late to be able to really have a huge impact on the team. So, in close, I still love my White Sox. The games I'm going to this year, I'm actually bought the tickets because I wanted to see the opponent more than I wanted to see actually the White Sox because I anticipated it wasn't going to be a good season. I hope that they don't break the all-time loss record, but I'm just being realistic and I'm really preparing myself for the inevitability that they will be challenging it this season unless something drastically changes on the field. And I do wish these players the best because I know they are trying hard. I just don't believe they're really, the majority of them should be starters at all in Major League Baseball. Probably some good bench players, some guys that probably are good minor league players, but there's very few guys that should be starting on Major League rosters. And it's very evident when they're setting records for the first 2 weeks of the season for the worst offense in baseball. So that's all I got to say. All right, so that was my brief little rant. All right, so let me show you some things I've picked up recently. All right, I wanted to start real briefly. So going back to last month when I got the autographs of Dave Parker, put him in the back here, and Raleigh Fingers. I wanted to replace those cards in my collection with ones that weren't autographs. So over the course of the last couple of weeks, I forgot to show this one a few weeks ago, but I got the Dave Parker. This was really inexpensive in a 4, and it's in a 4 because it's completely miscut and it's slightly off center, probably left to right here, but perfectly fine for the price I paid for it. So we got 2 Dave Parkers there, 1 autographed, 1 not. And then I got the Raleigh Fingers. Let me turn this way. I guess that's supposed to be this way. So I got the Raleigh Fingers card this past week, and it's a 5 miscut, which was able to pick it up at a pretty affordable price. I found a lot of these cards tend to be miscut for whatever reason of the Raleigh Fingers card. So I was pretty happy to be able to pick this up for the price that I got. And so there you have it. We got Raleigh Fingers and Dave Parker, both rookie cards, and they're going to be completing my sets again as I do keep my autograph cards separate from my sets. All right, so wanted to give you an update. The next couple cards are all going to be from the same set, so I'm going to put out a few from that set right now. So as you can see, the first card there is a 48 Bowman. So we are doing 48 Bowman update here on how my set's been going. So we got Elliott, Reeser, Marion, and Reynolds. All guys that were stars in their days, but not Hall of Famers, which kind of fits the theme of what I'm going to share with you now. So I was needing 5 more cards. So I went after the cards that were not Hall of Famers, starting with Johnny Lindell, who was, I believe, an outfielder for the New York Yankees, part of some of their World Series teams in the 40s. This is the only one I got that was ungraded. So got them there. And we also got Joe Page. When I picked up this card, I looked up some videos on Joe Page and saw a good one by Vintage Sanctuary. Adam did a really good job talking about his playing career while also showing a 52 Topps card of him from the first series. So we got Joe Page right there. And then the big one, I actually put a short out just the other day. It is Bobby Thompson. I knew I wanted to pick up a graded copy of the Bobby Thompson. It's also his rookie card, but just kind of his place in baseball history as the man who launched the shot heard around the world. Here he is pictured, obviously, with the New York Giants, probably at the Polo Grounds, if I'm not mistaken there. That's what it looks like in the background. A really cool image that was also used again for his 1948 Bowman card. 49 Bowman card. If you had to ask me, I mean, I think I would go with the black and white version of the card over the colored one, just because you get like this whole background image with it. I know the other ones you didn't really get a choice. You know, obviously it is just what it was. But for these that actually have the same image repeated twice, I think it's kind of cool seeing the black and white one personally. All right, so that just kind of brings me to a final update, and we are now down to just 2 cards from this 48 card set, both of which are Hall of Famers, which brings me to my final point. The cards that are on my radar probably for the next month or so are going to be those 2 cards. So I'm hoping to be able to pick up one as like a birthday gift to myself next month, and I'm hoping that I would be able to get the Yogi Berra rookie. So that card in low to mid grade, I think, is probably where I'm going to be kind of in the sweet spot for me. So I want to try and find one that is centered pretty well and doesn't have writing or creasing on it. And the wear is not too bad. I'm okay if it might have a little bit of a mark somewhere, but on the back, ideally. So I'm going to start looking at those and kind of seeing how they are selling before I kind of like start targeting them later on, probably in May. And then I need Reg Shandies, who is obviously the Hall of Fame second baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals and later manager of their World Series team in 1967 against the Red Sox. So I'm looking forward to getting those together. And then the set will be done, which would shift my focus then to the last 2 active projects that I'm on, even though I have a few that are starting to get introduced into the rotation, but I want to focus on the remaining 2 that I've been working on for a while, which is the 53 Bowman set, and then finishing off the Diamond Star sets. So we've made a lot of good progress on the Diamond Stars and the Bowman color over the course of the last couple months. I'm hoping to be able to start aggressively going after those as soon as this set is complete. So that is what I got for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Go Sox. I hope they do start winning so I can let go of my prediction, and I hope I'm completely wrong and we start winning some games. But the proof is in the pudding so far. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend.